Hello, hello, out there in LinkedIn land. Hope everyone is fine today, and I hope you're hearing me. This is a brand new experience for me to be doing a LinkedIn Live. So if anyone knows if I'm out there, say hello. I see Lisa is here. I see Jamie is here, and I'm so thrilled you guys are here. I'm here with Joey Garrity today. It's really nice that I'm doing this premiere audio event on LinkedIn Live. First time I'm doing this. It was a little confusing getting in, but I'm here. The other experiment that's going on today as part of LinkedIn Live is testing whether or not this will be able to be recorded so that it could be then repurposed on Spotify as the podcast, and maybe even turned into a video if it gets really good, or if I do something exciting. Also, I'm starting an audio event, guys, because video isn't necessarily my number one best awesome thing. And so I thought this would be a way that I could get my show to be produced more often, but I would have that interactive thing, like as if I were going live, like live streaming, but I could start with audio, a little more comfortable for myself and for people coming on. And then maybe, who knows, maybe I'll throw in LinkedIn Live with video sometime or other. But I don't want to hold things up, even though I was hoping a few more people would be popping in, and maybe they will as we go. But I don't want to hold up anybody with their time. So I'm just going to start in. Hello, Raja. I'm just going to start into the topic right now because I want to honor everybody's time today. So we're talking about the shifting foundations of social media and how it's being felt more deeply and intensely than ever. So for the first time in a decade, to me anyway, it feels like it's time to rethink and possibly overhaul many long-standing strategies and previously surefire tactics for a whole new and fresh approach to everything social. So today in this candid conversation with veteran social media superstar Joey Garrity of Joey G113 and founder of the Superstar Women Entrepreneurs Media Group, we'll dissect and weigh in on the state of social media and what you can do now in today's, chaotic situation to come up with an effective plan to grow your visibility and influence in the current environment. So we've put together an outline of hard-hitting topics that we can't wait to share, and I think it could be really an exciting and interesting chat today about some of these mega issues impacting how social media platforms perform today and how you can leverage social for your powerful presence going forward. So thank you for being here, and let me introduce you to this premiere LinkedIn Live audio event of the Marketing Mirror. I'm Sue Ann with Right Mix for Business, and today's guest is Joey Garrity. Hi, Joey.
Hey, how are you? Hi, everyone.
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I love this topic.
Isn't this a great topic?
It's our favorite. It's our favorite topic. We love to talk about social media.
Well, here's the funny thing. Joey and I talk, like Lisa and I talk to, I talk to people about this topic a lot because I'm trying to leverage it and do the best I can for myself and for my clients. And there's a lot going on. But here's the funniest thing, you guys. So when I scheduled this, Joey and I had talked about it, and she's like, promote it, get out there ahead of it, schedule it up a month ahead. So I scheduled it a month ahead on LinkedIn. And the day I put it up, don't you know, I saw as soon as I put it up, the minute I put it up, I saw a post from Mark Schaefer, of all people. He had just done an interview with Social Media Examiner, and he was talking about how people are lazy and kind of asleep at the wheel on social media. And that's really how I was feeling. What he wrote, I'll give you a quote. He said, "Most of social media marketing is boring right now. We're conforming to algorithms. We're constraining ourselves to SEO rules, creating content because we're afraid not to. We're just on autopilot," he said, "creating a pandemic of dull." We're social media sleepwalking. That's my favorite. Following ideas and best practices, and I'm guilty of this, you guys, that are out of date and irrelevant. And worst of all, we're mostly just copying each other. So he said, who is doing something new out there and really new and different? And so I think that that is one of the considerations. That's what's on my mind too. That's why I said to Joey, let's do the show. I feel like things are shifting. What do you think, Joey?
I hear from a lot of people how, and I hear this word a lot, hate social media. I hear it a lot. Hate it. I have a love affair with it personally. I love social media. Um, and I can see where his point of view is coming from, where people are just, posting to post and, posting and running. And I always tell my clients, and I remind myself daily, like, you have to find, like, I love social media because I share my unique point of view. It's a very creative outlet for me. So I share my journey, I share my blogs. I'm in love with video podcasting. I think video podcasting is hot and chic and fresh and cool. Um,
One of the things that I think that's different that you do, you mentioned sharing blogs. I don't see people post like a blog post in social, and you do that in your group, like post the post. And I think that's different and that's fresh. And it gives you a different way to, share that information without sharing a link. So, that could be a smart new tactic. By the way, I'd like to let all of you know listening now, or if you join in, you can ask any questions at any point, and please be sure to raise your hand if you want to interject with anything you have to say. I find all of this to be so fascinating and interesting. But why do we care? I think we care because we operate in the digital space, which, hey, guess what? Almost every business does, since people operate in the digital space, right? So if you want, the world operates in the digital space. You know what I'm saying? So commerce happens in the digital space. So I think it's a significant topic worth studying. And I think that I got into it kicking and screaming, Joey. I did not want to be in social media. I'm like, no, I don't think that's me. And my mentor at the time is like, look, you're a writer. You have no choice. Do you want anyone to hire you? Do you want anyone to see your work? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And she's like, well, then you're going to get on Twitter. And I'm like, I am? Okay. And I'm going to tell you what, that I think I fell in love too. And I met Lisa and Jamie on Twitter. Gail was my very first commenter on my very first blog that was published by someone else. It was a contributor post back in 2015. So we've been writing some of this stuff for a while now. I think it's time we all regroup. So I want to say, grab your sneakers and keep up, because the evolution of social platforms is head spinning compared to a decade ago. And for example, there have been more changes on LinkedIn this year than in its entire history. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but that's absolutely the case. The question is, are these changes good? And I'll say first, before I throw that to Joey, for me, I don't want to play a game on LinkedIn. Now, they have an opportunity that you can play a game. I don't think of LinkedIn as a platform, a social platform that I want to play a game. It's a business platform. That's what it's always been. And that's why I'm here trying to have an event on LinkedIn, is because I'm trying to make sure that I'm interacting on a platform where I believe I should have an audience, and I don't know that I do because I do so much work in the business space. I think in other words, with the game thing, I think they're a little out of their lane. I think that LinkedIn doesn't need to offer you a game. I don't think that's appropriate to that platform. Are platforms just copying each other? Should they just get really good at what they're good at? Joey, what do you think?
I like the changes because it's less stuffy. I don't think that the platform would continue to expand and stretch if they don't continue to make these changes. I don't. I think that stuffy, sit down, at the white tablecloth attitude, I think that's behind us. because business has changed dramatically. I mean, people are working from home. People are wearing, pajamas, and working at their computer simultaneously now. It's a different world. So I think it was a good business move on their part. I do.
I just don't get it. I think that a game on LinkedIn just doesn't feel like the kind of content I expect or want here, or nor do I feel like the other people on the platform are about games when they come to LinkedIn. I don't know. And I mean, they want to have a TikTok option sort of too, which I find to be kind of crazy because there's TikTok for TikTok. Like, I think LinkedIn should excel in business. I'm not saying they shouldn't make changes. What do you guys think? I mean, of course they should make changes, but if you're going to look at it from a business perspective, which is how I look at LinkedIn, they're supposed to be the business platform. Why can't I get a recording directly through LinkedIn of this audio production, because I'm a business person. I want to repurpose this content. I want to put it on my podcast, make an episode of it. But LinkedIn doesn't allow for that. But they're going to give me a game to play. Thanks, LinkedIn. What the hell?
Well, I mean, I think too, the reason I like social so much is that it's just all choices. If you don't want to play the game, don't play the game. I mean, who cares? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, what social really is social is a freedom flag. There was a time where we were doing business in a very different way, and the big brands had all the control, right? They decided who was going to be a star. They decided who was going to have influence out there. And social media, still favors big brands, of course, because of the cash. It's just it's a different vehicle where you can be your own unique person. Is over. It's like, who wants to even look at resumes anymore? I mean, who cares?
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
not about the resume, but look, these platforms, I think, copy. My point is, these platforms copying each other. What I'd rather see personally, I'd rather them excel in what is their thing. I'd rather see LinkedIn excel in helping business people do the business thing than offering me a game. But that's just me. If you want to come and play, that's cool too. Same with Facebook and all the other ones trying to copy the other one to be the other thing. Like Facebook wanted to start Threads to take out Twitter. We don't need another Twitter. We have Twitter for that. We don't need another TikTok on LinkedIn. We have TikTok for that. And besides that, TikTok, in my opinion, is skewed to a certain audience who may or may not be a business audience or my audience. So I have to take that into consideration as well. I think, again, what's beautiful about Joey's perspective and my perspective being kind of widely different here about what the social platforms themselves should do should just proves how much everything is, shaking it up and changing it around and all those sort of things. Hi, Deb. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. I haven't caught up with you for a minute, girl. I'm glad you're here. To move on, though, and we could probably argue that question for a while, and I want everybody to think about that, because when you're deciding on what platforms you want to be on, you probably want to think about, what's their main content line? What do they offer me as a business? Can I use the platform easily? Like on Twitter, Spaces, I can record directly and not worry. Like today, I have to worry. This is experimental, whether I can do this as an audio event for interactivity on LinkedIn, or if I have to move it to Twitter where I can, get the recording to use in other ways. So, that's one of the reasons why I say, why don't they excel at what they do instead of trying to be every which where?
Well, LinkedIn for a while there, their business model is that they were going to sell education, right? Academies, education. It just didn't take off, you
Yeah.
know.
Well,
And
that wasn't their, that's not their lane either.
it kind of is actually. I was very surprised. I mean, if you think about it,
Well,
it was.
LinkedIn Learning definitely is education, and I would say that having audio events is educational, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
that's still
exactly.
part of the platform, but not the main of it, right?
It didn't take off. It didn't take off for them. So they just and, we're all in business, and so sometimes you have to step back and you gotta rethink and retweak things, right? And
Definitely.
it's not what and for me too in business, and it's like you get into it and you think you know where you're heading with it, right? And then there's a point where you just got to listen to your audience. Just got to do it. So it
Absolutely.
made sense to get away from it.
Well, then the next thing that I think is a factor for how we approach it and what's going on is the perception of social media. So I think we have to take a new look because of what I'm going to call social media literacy. So, how people see it, how people use it, how it's accepted as part of everyday society. And it's, it's a socio economical, it's just so widely accepted, and people are then therefore kind of more used to it, so then they become like a little, more sensitized into, what you share and how you share and what they're willing to click. And I think that changes how you go about it too. So the content's changing, the users and their use is changing, the algorithms are changing, regulations are changing. But I think one of the biggest factors is how people themselves are using the platforms, and they're shopping on them and those sort of things. What do you think? Is there a changing view of social media by people sometimes that factors into your strategies? Of course it does. You just said so, right? Because your users are guiding you. But how should we adjust? What can we do to really accept that people look at social media differently than they did when we first got in it?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, now it's just like a second skin, right? I mean, you can go to any grocery store, everyone's on their phone, and what are they doing? They're either texting or jumped on one of the platforms, right? So, I mean, I feel like when we all jumped into it, like so long ago, not to date ourselves, but when we all jumped into it, right? It was fresh. There was something. It was unique, but it was also so tech heavy at the time, and it was difficult. Well, now it's easy. It's easy breezy, right? So I feel like the now we can't control the algorithms. There's no way controlling the algorithms. So, but I do feel that I look at social media as an interactive tool where I get to, go. I look at it like it's a local coffee shop. My local coffee shop. I pop in, go say hi to people, go table to table, right, post to post, kind of a thing, right. Hang out, jump out, live, do errands, jump back in again. So I feel it's gonna be even more hours, more time where people are gonna spend in there.
And so I have some statistics here too for B2B marketers, not even just people, but B2B, because that's where a lot of us on LinkedIn, find ourselves in that space. So according to Demand Gen report about humanizing social media, they say that 95% of B2B marketers are using social media in some form, making it the most widely used content type. With such a massive reach, that marketers often resort then to generic tactics or assets to hopefully cover everyone's interest, whether an up and coming intern or a seasoned chief marketing officer. But in a channel as loud, crowded, and as impersonal as social, this blanket type content won't suffice. And I think that's absolutely the case. So, what do you think about people perceiving social media based on platform ownership? Like, to me, some people won't do Twitter, for example, or X, I guess it is now. Most people still call it Twitter, but because they don't like Elon. But my question is, does that mean that all the peeps on that platform are also on your hate list? Like, if I stay on Twitter, does that mean that you don't like Elon and I stayed on? Am I now on your hate list? Um, because I think that you dumping, Twitter means that maybe you lost friends there, that, you made me feel like you don't like me either. I think that as a business, we should choose our platforms based on what works for us and where our audience is hanging out, and not so much judge it by whoever owns the platform, because that person has nothing to do with me personally. I don't think Elon Musk knows I'm alive, ever will, and I could care less about him in a way too. Any thoughts on that?
I just think that that just goes to show you how emotionally connected people are to the platforms. That they literally are taking it personally. Each of the people.
That's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it.
And I don't think, I think it's just gonna, that's just gonna increase with time. I don't think that's gonna decrease at all.
Well, see, my fear with that is, okay. So social media, I think originally was supposed to be social, a place for conversations to happen. My fear is that if everybody goes to where they're like, birds of a feather flock together, if we all hang in our own same circles, how do we expand into new circles, and how do we learn new things, because everybody in our circle probably has some kind of agreement with us in a way. Like, I feel like we've lost some of that conversation with people hating on her, and therefore throwing out the people. I don't know. I just wish people could be more conversational for real.
But I don't, we've seen what's happened over the last just couple months. I mean, I feel like human beings tend to like to run with like-minded human beings. That's just nature, you know. I don't think we're going to see these open conversations that are calm and,
There's no
you know,
conversation. There's just
I don't think
hollering.
we're going to see that. I don't think we're going to see that. I think that's kind of behind us in some ways. I feel like it doesn't surprise me that people jumped off of Twitter. And if it was the same climate maybe 10, 12 years ago, maybe it would have impacted Facebook, with Mark. But it just was a different climate back then. And so, yeah, I think people are pulling back the red curtains, and they're taking the CEO, the president, the founder very, very seriously. I do.
Well, I think that in some ways you're biting off your nose despite yourself or something. I think you have to be really careful about that. I've never, in the decades and decades I've been a business owner, I have never really talked about politics in business. I feel like it doesn't really, and now that's not to say that there are businesses who work on a social platform or claim, like their political stand is part of their business value, and that's a different discussion. But as small business owners, how do you feel?
I think that social media is like pulling up a chair at a dinner table. That's the way I look at it. And at dinner tables, I don't think politics or religion should come up in conversation. It can really bring down the whole party. And that's the way I feel about social too. Do I believe that people should share their unique point of view? Absolutely. Do I also believe that people
Yeah,
have
but
the
where do
right?
they do it? You just said they can't do it at the dinner party or at home. Where do they do
No,
it?
but I'm also saying, like, we all have choices. Like, if someone is offensive, I also have a choice to unfriend them. I also have a choice to, unfollow them. I think
You
I don't.
control
I
your
feel
little world, is what you're saying.
I feel like social media is a freedom flag, and I believe we all have our own mansions on social media. That's the way I look at it. And if my next door neighbor and I aren't digging each other, then we don't need to connect that way. I don't. I just think, again, I think people are taking this all. They're taking it very personally, right? And I don't personally unfriend people, and I don't personally unfollow people because of their unique point of view, because I don't take it personally. And I feel that there is a freedom of speech right out there, and I honor that. But I could see where it could really, really rattle people. And I'll tell you, it can hurt your business, hands down. Can.
Right, most definitely. And welcome, Kim, just popped in. We're talking a little bit now about social media being influenced during a political climate, and that maybe for your business, it's a great idea to, separate that, because you don't want to alienate half of the people, just because of, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we should all have better conversations and be more willing to listen. We might all sides might learn from each other, is sort of my my thinking. If we could just get back to where we could have a conversation and not be yelling or mean. So that leads me kind of into the next question that I have here. One of the things too about politics and the political scene is the question of government intervention in what can be seen or heard or posted on social. That's alarming to me personally. I feel like that the point of social media was sort of for it to be a town square or a coffee shop, as you're calling it, Joey, a place where people can just, randomly speak their mind. So when there's some kind of government control, and I think there was just something new passed, I didn't mark down the rule number, but I think it's something that actually allows our government to decide what can or cannot be shared on social. And I think at that point we have to worry about, then are we getting a biased viewpoint on things, for example? One situation would be where, okay, so I just recently heard some people talking about Google being the biggest donor to the Democratic Party. And we all know that Google controls the information of the world. And so you have to wonder, is there a bias that you're being fed unknowingly when you're involved in, the platforms and the search engines? And I guess we don't want to talk about politics, but we want to think about these things because Joey's talking about, social being a freedom flag and being a coffee shop where we can interact. And I'm wondering, how much of that is, we have to be really careful, but I think that the point too is that we're in control. We're the pilot, right, of our social ship.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's what I would say.
So here's
But
the
I mean,
thing. Go ahead.
there's a time and place for everything, but I rarely see when the government gets involved that it's usually a good thing.
So here's the thing. So then now, like kind of drifting from that, like to how much control and what's happening underneath. How about where we have? I'm already seeing, and I saw it first come out on LinkedIn, where people were starting to freak out because they were getting messages, comments left in their comment section that were from automated bots. They were obviously automated bots. How do you feel about having interaction with automated bots and not people?
Oh no, I know that's a nightmare.
Because look, we do automate social, right? We want to maybe use social scheduling or
Yeah, I use autoresponders, but there's a difference between using an autoresponder to get your post out there in a timely, consistent manner than these bots. There's a big difference between the two. And nothing is more of a turn on to me in business than when one of these bots start popping up.
yes.
Because I never know who's behind the red curtain. I don't know if I can trust it. I'm not emotionally connected to it. I could tell you that much right now, right?
It feels like
So,
that's where we lose social, right? Your bot talking to my bot.
I know, right? It's so true.
And I really am seeing backlash about this. And I have to agree. I mean, what is the point at that point? If there's no human behind social media, how social is it? Like, is my bot going to be like more funny than your bot? Or like, where's what makes you unique if you're just a bot? I don't quite understand how that's working. I like that there is backlash. People can tell that your bot just initiated the comment that you left me, right?
Yeah, I agree. Well, it's so obvious, right?
That's one of the things that I think we have to be aware of. So, I mean, we all want to have better productivity and all that sort of thing. We want to be really streamlined in our processes, but when our process, especially on social media, leaves out human beings, then I think we have a problem. I definitely wanted to touch on the bot world.
Well, no, I think too. I feel that we are at an age again where people are going to continue to pull back that red curtain. People want a face to the brand. They want an emotional connection to that person, right? It's not the CEO, the faceless brand anymore. Okay, that's over. It's over, right? And so the bots, in my opinion, are and sometimes the funnel systems too. That they can feel so unemotionally connected And I wonder if that doesn't cause more problems for the business than people realize.
Yeah, we don't. In my opinion, we don't want social to turn into a superficial social media world. For one thing, we don't want to have fear to discuss or speak out. We don't want to have fear that things are biased or censored. We don't want to have fear that we're talking to a bot and not a human. And these are some of the things that I feel are kind of on the table right now with those automated social response bots. That's taking the person out of it. And on that same line, I have a little note here from this is talking about AI, which I think belongs somewhere in the bot situation, in the bot conversation. But Owen Video said that while AI brings many advantages, it's still crucial to approach it with a well thought out strategy and human touch. I know we all know this, but as a reminder, brand voice and the nuances and the emotional intelligence that we humans bring can be lost if we don't make that part of our brand and if we don't have that human touch. Also, we have to worry about bias from those AI systems themselves. You've heard of them, hallucinating. Everybody, every time I hear a conversation on AI, says, you got to check the facts. So we're looking for things like bias and, really true good resources. That's important. And most of all, what Owen says is customer trust is what is at stake. And to me, he says over reliance on AI can lead to losing a personal connection with your audience. And I think that's a really good reminder. So you have to have that human insight with your AI and monitoring.
Yes. I do love AI though.
But as long as you're going to maintain that consistent, authentic voice and those kind of things,
Of course.
Trust
Yes.
Insights. I know many of you know of Chris Penn and Trust Insights. He actually talks about labeling every single thing that you do, whether it's AI or whether it's strictly human. And he says down the road we're gonna, we'll be glad that we've labeled for things that come along. This is all evolving so much so that that copyright and all those things are up in the air. So he suggests you literally, like I notice on even his emails, he'll say this was written, 3/4 by human, or I know when I've used AI on a couple things that I've worked on, whether it be in my blog or for someone else, I label it, this section is not me, this is the AI. So, I mean, you can handle it different ways that you want. But again, when it comes to social media, the important thing is to remember that humanness of your brand and of your business and of those connections. You're not working with bots, you're working with people, am I right? Thanks, Kim. I love the reactions. Thank you. There is a new United States AI Safety Institute that has just been put together, a new regulatory board. Also, there is one for AI education that was just put in, and a Create AI Act that was just instituted. So some of these things I think are going to help with that situation that we should probably, think about when we're using AI in our business and in our writing. Protect ourselves, protect our customers. Be straight up honest with it. Be authentic with it. Right? That's cool. Does anyone want to? If you want to come up and give me your 2 cents, anyone listening, please raise your hand and I'll put you in. But the next thing that we have on the agenda here is so from some of these questions and discussions that I've been asking you, I think, can we agree that now is the perfect time to rethink and adjust our social media marketing strategies? And I think it is. I know for me, I'm totally rethinking everything. And so I kind of think of Ann Handley sometimes, who says, slow down to speed up your marketing. Like, stop and think, how are we approaching it? Is it working anymore? What can we do differently? What are the hot things to do? So we're always trying to approach social media intentionally, but my latest conclusion is that it's time to flip things upside down a little, as the foundational shift is undeniable right now. I think there's a whole cultural change and evolution around social media worldwide, with the acceptance and adoption of the platforms. But what can we do? How can we evolve, stand out, and get business results by spicing it up? What are your top recommendations, Joey?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I lost you for a sec, huh?
I'm a huge fan of like leading with like your unique point of view. Like I like telling the marketplace like who you are, like what you're about, what's your why, what's your story, what's your ups, what's your downs. Like let them in. I feel like that goes such a long way out there in terms of the emotional connection, and it's so much more fun. You know, I feel like right now, what I want to encourage people to do is if you're not having fun at something, particularly with your social media marketing, really consider finding another doorway in, right? I wasn't having fun a couple months ago, and so I sat down with my marketing, just like we're talking about today, and I revamped it all.
Up, she's fading again, but we'll wait. Betty, thanks for being here. Oops, I just lost you. I'm bringing Kim up on stage. We're losing Joey for a second. Hi, Kim. I think you, if you unmute, there you go.
Yeah.
No, my
Hi,
phone
Sue
keeps.
Ann. Hi, Joy. Thank you. Thank you.
Ah,
I just want to jump in to share that the human connections, it will not fade away because that actually it need the most right now. I know we are in the intersection between AI and human being. Human being always win. So I love Joy mentioned, if you don't have fun in your creation, gonna reconnect and see where you can anchor into that, our soul, our heart, our joy, the expression within one's soul is extremely important. I just want to add that flavor to it. Thank you, Susie. So, Anne, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Joey. I'm here in San Francisco also.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for contributing. And I think what you have to say is absolutely, completely super important because we should be heart centered. We should be human centered. That's who we're doing business with. That's who we're helping with our services and our products. We're about humans. We're all about humans. So I love that. Thank you, Kim. And good to meet you. And Joey, she's in your neighborhood. Maybe you'll run into each other.
that would be terrific.
Hi, Jamie. What do you want to tell us, girlfriend?
Hey, this has been a great conversation, by the way.
Oh,
I had all right, there we go. I had a question. Sue Ann, you had mentioned earlier that a lot of the platforms are quick to copy other platforms, which I agree with. It seems like a new platform comes out with great fanfare and it really doesn't gain any lasting traction because the established platforms jump on what is making them successful and kind of take that for their own platform. That's why I've been hesitant to jump on new platforms, especially with clients, and try to build a new community there as opposed to, where we already have established communities. But do either of you or anyone else on the call see new social media platforms coming up in the next few years that you think are actually going to make a lasting impression and stick around beyond the initial fanfare, or are there any other kind of alternative platforms that you're on and seeing success on?
I want to ask Lisa to raise her hand and bring her up because this is her specialty. Lisa, can you do that? You feel like it? Because she does, Lisa, because she is a social media and marketing manager for so many people. And Betty, did you hear me say, I hope you heard me say hello earlier. When these social media platforms come up, Lisa tries them all, but she's learned that some of them are worth sticking with and some of them aren't. And some of them depend strictly on the business and the person at the helm. So she's gained, I know, customers on some of these sites. Like I know she just gained a customer recently from Gab, and that's a new site. Lisa, take it away. But yeah, so I think here, and Jamie, you touch on something that's so important because as a social media marketing manager, you want to try the stuff, right? Go ahead, Lisa.
Right.
Hi everyone, sorry about that.
Take it away, baby.
Yeah, so Sue Ann mentioned about Gab. I've been on Gab for a few years. I was testing it out, and I found by joining a lot of different groups, it really made a difference. Like I belong to a rural group because I moved to a rural place and actually have another blog on rural stuff. So I met a lot of different people through that. And I just gained a new client, and actually they wanted someone to edit a book, so I contacted Sue Ann, of course, and plugged her in there. So you can try new networks, but I think if you go into groups of smaller spaces inside different social networks, that can make a difference. Because I notice when I post something on the Gab network and I post it to the main feed, I don't get too many comments or too many shares. But if I do it on different groups, they have a good morning group where I like to post a lot of photos. And so I've met people all over the country through that.
Now that's a beautiful example of social too, right? Because
Yeah,
Lisa,
I mean, I love groups too. I love them. I have a group. I like the emotional connection in groups, so it makes sense, doesn't it?
that's a beautiful, beautiful example of social, right? Because look,
Yeah.
not only is she working with a group, and you do it so beautifully, Joey. Joey has one of the biggest groups I've seen on Facebook. But not only is she working with the group, so it's like a bigger interaction than one on one, right? When you're in a group, but they're also doing things that are getting to know each other without it being strictly business, right? The good morning posting isn't business posting, right, Lisa?
And it's also not political because there's a lot of political stuff on that social network. So people are tired of seeing the political, so they form these other groups so that they can go to them without seeing political.
And that's great because that particular platform you're talking about is one that many people think of as a political platform. So you've just pointed out that that's not even necessarily correct. And that might be a reason to experiment into new platforms for people. Hi, Foster. I'm so glad to see you. I really appreciate your sharing my work and Lisa's work and hanging around and chatting with us on Twitter. And thank you for being here right now. Sorry, I had to just say something because he's been such a great guy on Twitter with us. Um, but yeah, so I think, Jamie, when it comes to customers, you really have to do like you're going to do your social media audit before you move them, I think, off the main platforms because you want to really match closely, as always, the audience that they're seeking with the business they are, matching the audience and the business, matching the format of the content to the platform. So if you're not a video person, you're not going to be doing TikTok maybe, that kind of thing.
Right, right.
But I think to Jamie as well is that I think it's going to be it will continue to be very difficult for new platforms to sustain. The big brand platforms don't want them around. Okay, this is a business.
That's one of the reasons they're doing what they do, huh? To knock them out.
Yeah, it's
Right.
the same thing like the studio system, right? For years, it was Warner's, Disney, and Fox, Sony, right? Right, and they were the players, and these little indie, production, these little indie studios were trying to breathe some life into it, and once in a while, one of them would, right? So there will be one or a couple along the way, but I think it just there's so much money behind this, and the runway is so long. So like yourself, I rarely jump onto a new platform. I do. And I rarely recommend any of my clients to go to a new platform because I can't take a chance if it's not going to be around in a year. I can't.
It's a time thing too, right? We can only spread ourselves so thin. I think you guys really hit the nail on the head. That it's hard to be a new social platform because the big boys are beating you on the head. Also, that's exactly why you're directing your clients to the biggest platforms. Is that's where the biggest, piece of the pie is for the audience that they might want to attract, right?
Yeah. Well, and also, too, you just can't trust it. You don't know. You don't know if they're going to be around. Who wants to put more time, energy into something and not know if it's going to be around in a year? We've seen this time and time again over the last couple of years, right? And then we also know, though, if you're not on enough of the platforms, you could really be shooting yourself in the foot because we've seen what happens. You don't know one of them is going to get shut down suddenly, right? And so so that was a real wake up call for me a couple years ago, and I wasn't playing as much on LinkedIn as I do now. Like I play on LinkedIn way more now than I do, because I built so my numbers on Facebook just because I was on there early, you know. So, you know, you don't want to, you know, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket either.
So I think if we're summarizing some of the ways to go forward is that you really do want to, even in the shifting landscape, you really do want to keep in mind who your client or you are as a business, who the platform is as an audience, right? From an audience perspective, and what they're doing there. That's another thing that I think people don't think about when they're choosing their social media platforms. If people are going to a platform to play games or to get quick videos, are they going to a platform to buy? There's some platforms that are more commerce centric, if you know what I mean, where people are going to buy. Now, right now, TikTok is having a huge shopping explosion. But for me, I don't have any customers in their demographic, none. And I don't sell products that are probably, home, like typical, I don't know. I don't have the product or the client on TikTok for me to add that into my things to do, if you know what I mean. So you have to, I think, really be careful about, what's the intention of people when they get on a platform. It's the same with YouTube Shorts. People are really, really pushing shorts. But when people are watching shorts on a platform, they're not going to find a service. They're just going for the entertainment factor. So if you're if you're using shorts to drive things to your bigger platform, your main YouTube channel, or to a product, service, a blog, whatever, maybe maybe that's a promotional thing. But as a platform, I don't think with these short things you can get that much connectivity and engagement. Like, I really believe that there's still a place for longer form stuff. I think we have to do more storytelling going forward. I think we have to really bring people in emotionally by connecting, and storytelling would be one of the best ways to do it. But I think what I'm thinking and changing my way to approach things, and this might help all of you guys, is to maybe try to put more my authenticness in the way I tell the stories for business, by bringing it in that way as a suggestion.
Just to get back to the e-commerce part, I actually believe that it will be sooner than later where every single platform is selling in one way or another, that people will expect people to sell, because it's the way we're being trained right now, between Amazon, between even all of the networks out there. Can't barely turn on any show currently without them literally just selling, right? And so I think I think every platform will become an e-commerce platform in its own style, in its own way.
It's definitely heading that way on all of them. Pinterest started a selling thing, I think, before some of the others, and some people don't even realize that. Welcome to Alan, who's listening in right now. Thank you for stopping. We were just saying, how do you do things to be unique and not to just be marching down the social media parade along with the rest of the zombies? How do you stand out and do things that are different? I think humor is another way that I'm seeing some social accounts handle things, and it's going really well. There's a couple really big corporate accounts that I've heard like really good things about, because they use a humor in their thing, in their social. It's like, here's an example. So one company in a local neighborhood puts a sign up, and then another company puts a sign up, and then they play like a sign wars, and then they take that to social to expand that to the digital space and to gain more customers, and it becomes kind of a fun back and forth. Some people stand out in whatever their main content format style is. I noticed that Henika, one of my friends who I look up to for writing, has really taken in the platform of LinkedIn. They've changed the way that you put your visuals in, the what are those called, carousel visuals. The format is different, and if you check her profile, she's doing it in a really unique way, where she's using the little graphic stories to like miniaturize a blog post essentially, and at the end of that is always that CTA to grab her snackable writing course, which is I recommend everybody. It's just you sign up for her newsletter and you get her snackable stuff. And Jamie and Deborah agree that they know probably Henneke. And Ann Handley is another one who I always enjoy. And she actually just did a thing last week about myths, marketing myths, I think was the name of it. I thought it was really interesting because she actually talked about social media as part of that, because people are saying, is organic social a myth, or is it still viable? And of course, she likes social media. But one thing that she does that I thought was kind of interesting, and I thought could be an approach for some of us to try as something new and a different way to stand out. She has a platform that she uses simply as a fun platform. So she does no business at all really on her Instagram. I've seen some of her, I'm not on Instagram, but I've seen some of her Instagram through her newsletter, and like she'll be having her dog's birthday party and she'll put the pictures up on Instagram. And it's really a funny, quirky, fun way to get to know her and know what she's into, like her baby, her dog, without in her tiny house that she writes in the backyard, things like that you'll see on Instagram that you won't see on any of her regular social business platforms. So, maybe it would be fun, and maybe like someone like me who doesn't do personal very well, maybe I should pick a platform and play with it on a different personal level. Like I like to write rhymes. I could write a daily rhyme, and that could be something that would be something, But Ann Handley says social media is rented land and not worth it. Her answer to that myth is, the first part of the myth is not a myth, she says, because social media is rented land. We've all heard that one, right? But the second part is the mythiest of myths. She says social is worth it, but only with realistic goals and expectations and the right approach. So it's about this strategic social that we've been doing and learning more about as we go. So she said social media generates for most companies less than 2% of the company's website traffic. Now, for me, my website traffic from social is much higher than typical, but that's because that's where I play my marketing game. So, it's interesting too, because depending on where you put your eggs in the basket is, how you pull your clients, and whatever works for you is okay. So if you're using your rented land, people have big things going on Facebook, like Joey, your group is huge. Why can't that be a source of traffic and business, right? So she said that social media has never been about, or maybe this is my notes at the end, it's never been about instant conversion, you guys. Social's not about instant conversion. It's more about awareness. It's about discovery. It's about that coffee shop attitude that Joey says, which I'm going to call meet and greet. And then later on, it's about engagement, subscriptions, and conversation, or conversion, rather. So these are, kind of some of the things that I was thinking about that will give you direction. Insight stories, getting back to Henneke, I have 7 frameworks that she offers. Insight stories that make up tips and lessons. So things that you have that are real memorable. Transformation stories that give you credibility. They help your sales. So I think that was a good one. Imagination stories is another way. Metamorphic stories add a flair and flavor. So it's a way to share tidbits in life that brings it back to your business. Opening stories. Jamie does a really cool thing on social where she shares stories about other businesses. She has on her Facebook where she highlights a business. Jamie, I'm not sure. I think you do that weekly. But I love it because it's places she visits, like the pastry shop or the painting, a museum, or canoeing, or whatever. And it gives a shout out to local businesses, and it makes her social intriguing because I learn more about Jamie. I know she loves the water. I know she's also a Pisces and loves the water, of course. So, and also opening stories work, like how to introduce how you came about as a business or a product or whatever it is. The tutorials can be, made into a story. Origin stories again, and of course product stories that can help you increase a perceived value when you talk about the product. So these are some good techniques. And then I think about Brooke Sellis. she talks about social media as a customer care operation. And she really talks about turning your social media customer care and listening to what people say on social media into a competitive advantage. So that's another way to be unique and to leverage social.
May I have a question, Sue Ann?
Certainly.
Yes, because you were sharing the story of opening the story, different kind of stories. Do you have something you can suggest? Because for me, I'm not really know how to actually. Copywriting is not my forte. English is my second language. Anyhow, the format. Where can I find that? What book can I read?
I would actually tell. There's actually right now the same person that I stole those 7 tips from, Henneke Dustermott. I'll set you up with a link. She actually even has I think a storytelling. Lisa, you probably know this. She has a storytelling little education, like a little e-course offer right now on storytelling. It's not one I've taken. I've taken a few of her courses, but not that one. But that would be a perfect way because she would help you. But I'll give you a good trick to learn how to better your copy, and especially if you're not a English speaking as your major language person. It's an old copywriting trick. Go to Amazon and hit up whatever the subject matter that you're looking for is. So if you're talking about leadership, let's just pick that out of the blue. You would go to leadership and look at books in leadership. Then look at what they say in the introduction. So in the introduction, they would give you, the key points they're talking about in that area. So that gives you some language to pull. Also, look at comments that people make. Look at questions that people ask in that category and pull little snippets and phrases out of that stuff to use in your copy, because that's actually using the voice of the user or the customer in repeating it in your copy, and you're not going to get any closer to people than using their own words. That's an old copywriting trick, but a good little helper to start you with.
Thank you very much, Sue Ann. I just sent you a text. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make sure after I get off that I get that link to you, okay? Anybody else want to give us any more information or have any other questions on today's topics? I know we can go way further. I think Joey's mic is wigging out, by the way. Lisa, what do you have to say to send us off? I know you have something good.
Well, I just have one last question. I always have some other thing to share, more spiritual aspect. What is the, see, I am on LinkedIn. I just recently focused here. However, I am on Facebook and Instagram, so I have 3 platforms that I am sharing my content. The TikTok, I use them for fun because I like to go TikTok practice certain thing, and then I would jump to the other platform. So anyway, kind of fun place for me to be there. So what are your thoughts in the other platform? I guess my friend trying to invite me to Be Connect, BEE Connect, and anyhow, I'm hesitate.
Are you thinking about a way to share to all the platforms, like from an automation? I know Buffer is where I started because that's so they have a free tier, and I think you can share to 3 social platforms on their free tier. So you can actually set up like a week or a couple weeks or a month out. If you're really good and organized like Lisa, you'll be set up with yourself and your clients at least a month out with their social using scheduling tools. Missing Letter Lisa likes. I like Agora Paulson's. There's another one, Social Bee, Hootsuite. There's a ton of them, but I know Buffer has a free level. Go ahead, Lisa. Add to that.
Yeah, I recommend Missing Letter, and I believe they have a free version if you're using it just for one account. It's great for small businesses and for single accounts. I also use Agora Pulse, but that's when I manage multiple clients. and that does come with a little price. So,
Yeah,
and I used to use the buffer too. The buffer was great.
yeah,
Well,
Buffer's a
thank
good.
you.
I think that's the starting platform for most people is Buffer, and it's easy because you get 3 to start.
So buffer.com.
I think so. Again, I can shoot you I'll shoot you that link, and I'll shoot you a link for Lisa for Missing Letter. You can check out too.
Well, this blew my mind because I didn't know any of these platforms. This is my first time hearing that. Thank you.
Sure thing. And Lisa's blog, Inspired to Thrive, will give you a lot of information. Clearly Conveyed Communication is Jamie's blog, more information. Foster has a beautiful blog. I can't remember the name. Informational. Check his profile here. Gail Gardner is Grow Map. And Deborah, I'm not sure what your platform now is because I know I see you a lot on LinkedIn. But even the people in the spaces have blogs and platforms that have a lot of helpful information on them. That might help you, Kim, for another thing. So next week I want to talk about. I want to keep this going in a way. I want to keep on the social media train. No, I don't know what the social media wagon, right? So what I'm thinking is that next week we're going to talk about a new aspect of the same topic. So what I want to do is concentrate on top of the funnel social marketing, because while we're thinking deeper about how we really, really want to overhaul and really redo and upgrade and rethink social, at the same time, we want to have something that's going out there. So I'm going to talk next week about top of funnel social marketing and sparking that awareness, and then that leads to action. So that will be the topic for next week if you are able to tune in. And I really appreciate you guys being here. I really appreciate your input. And I think there's so much we can talk about with social, but I kind of wanted to start with just this fact that it's different. Lisa and I for sure have been doing this game. Gail, Deborah, you guys, Jamie, I think we've all been in it like a decade-ish. I know I've been in a decade-ish, and most of you guys, some of you guys are before me. But all of a sudden it hit me like this isn't working right anymore, and we need to be bolder. We need to go ahead, Sue Ann, show your real self, surprise them. This is me egging you and me to think different and to jump out of the box, and I hope that you will. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. If you have any further questions, definitely hit us up. Kim, I will get you some things into the comments shortly, to a message with some of the links I promised you. And again, I encourage everybody to follow and interact with each other, and join us next week to interact some more live. The idea of doing this live is so that you can have a voice and, ask questions and be part of it. So thank you. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, everybody.